version. These pictures are going to continue to come in of aftermath. What you had a lot of right there, television crews, medical, and police, and race volunteers. That's a double-edged sword. It means all three of those categories will be likely among the wounded. You had the reviewing stand right across the way. I'll tell you, if indeed this was an intentional act, it is so audacious to attempt something like this at the center of so much pre-planned security in place. Mike Gleason is on the phone with us. Mike is a NYPD veteran who was in Boston today as a spectator. Mike, I understand this happened about 100 yards from where you were?
Yeah, that's correct. I was meeting up with my wife and her friend Allie, who had just finished the marathon about 3 minutes prior to this. And we were talking to them. They were getting a drink, and I heard the first explosion. And Amy was on the other side of the barrier, so was Allie. And then I heard the second explosion. I knew right away that was not a coincidence. So we grabbed the girls, picked them over the barrier, picked up the barrier, let other people out, and then people were just running frantically all over the place.
Mike, we're going to dip into New England cable news for one moment. Bear with me.
The first patients arrived there.
Yeah,
is there a sense that it's safe there right now? Well, clearly it seems as though it is not.
Unless, and not knowing exactly what their procedures are with the bomb squad, they may have found another item out there. It's possible, and they could have exploded it intentionally. Now, I don't know whether they do that there at that location. It might be too dangerous for them, but that is, I think, something that's a possibility, and something as we continue to monitor this that we have to consider, unless you have different information.
Mike.
Scary pictures, because you've got pedestrians behind the existing police lines who are now kind of rapidly leaving the area. What you hear them talking about is there's apparently been another explosion in Boston, but the Boston Globe is reporting this one was planned. Perhaps a backpack somebody in the rush of things left behind, and on a day when we can now take no chances, they took it out in a planned explosion. A lot of big city police departments take things out to a nearby range that is set up away from everybody for that kind of thing, but on a day like this, where we've now had dual explosions in one of America's biggest cities, at one of America's biggest sporting events, tolerance levels have now dropped to zero. So this is live coverage from the ground coming from one of our two sources this afternoon, New England Cable News and our NBC station in Boston, WHDH. This is one rare event where we've had a public emergency, in this case 2 explosions, cause unknown thus far, where civilians and police were in the same boat. They were interspersed, commingled in the crowd. Everybody was behind the barricades. So people with loved ones in the race, just race fans who pre-positioned to get a prime spot at the finish line, ended up being in the debris field for these 2 explosions. So the camera right now, as we speak, the live camera for New England Cable News is being moved back. We believe this is in reaction to this, what would be a 3rd explosion in Boston today, but the difference is, again, we're hearing it was something done intentionally out of a preponderance of caution, but we're walking with the camera crew away from the affected area. Let's listen in a brief moment. In a few seconds, we're going to have to welcome another network.
And there are dozens and dozens of ambulances at this point just lined up from all over, just in a line, waiting for victims. I haven't personally seen any of the victims being brought to the ambulances, but again, police backed us away from the Boylston Street area, so we weren't even allowed to go anywhere near Boylston Street by the time we started walking over there. But this is just confusion here. People are trying to find their loved ones. They're trying to get away from the
sad day in the city of Boston. We'll pause here just briefly to welcome more viewers to our coverage.
Or how to find their loved ones. Some of them don't have cell phones.
And for those just joining us, Brian Williams here in New York, but all eyes are on the situation in Boston. This was the live television picture showing what we now know to be the first of two explosions. In the center of your screen, you see a runner go down after getting hit by a piece of shrapnel. You see the smoke plume rise no less than 50 yards from the finish line, and then a second explosion seconds later, just a short distance down the street, appears to be equidistant from the route of the race. Both explosions appear to have been located at or near the base of buildings at the finish line of the Boston Marathon this afternoon on Patriots Day, about an hour after the first highest ranking elite finishers. And sadly, the injuries we are hearing about being triaged and taken to hospitals are consistent with what you would find in similar explosions in a war zone. We're choosing not to report any numbers early on because there's going to be great confusion with several metropolitan hospitals getting the wounded from this. If there's any good news to report at all, and it's a double-edged sword because they were likely among the wounded, you had public safety officials right there. The medical tent was within view of the first explosion. You had Boston PD, fire, EMS, all there on duty because of the secured finish line. These were initial aerials from our station, WHDH in Boston. Right there at the top of your screen, you see the white powder aftermath of an explosion. That was what's left of the reviewing stand. The black truck's part of Boston PD as they investigate. The feds were en route. And you see the aftermath from an explosion on that sidewalk.